75 years Indian Constitution. I think you are all of know, we are very conscious about this issue from the beginning. The Constitution, I think it's not a simple document. It's a very, very important historical and revolutionary document for Indian context. इसलिए हम सोच रहे हैं इसका ऊपर बहुत डिस्कशन हुआ था, बहुत इश्यूज का इसके ऊपर डिपेंड हुआ था। कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का वजह से बहुत ये उपयोगी आया और कुछ तो प्रॉब्लम्स भी है, इम्प्लीमेंटेशन प्रॉब्लम। एक ही प्रॉब्लम है, इम्प्लीमेंटेशन नहीं हो रहा, इम्प्लीमेंटेशन अच्छा तरीके से नहीं हो रहा। वो तो हम डिस्कस कर रहे हैं पहले से, मगर हम सोच रहे कौन सा एरिया में कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का इंटरवेंशन क्या है, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का कंट्रीब्यूशन क्या है, इसका बाद हम कैसा करेगा। हम सोच रहे हैं वो 3 इश्यूज का हम कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को 3 तरीका से देख रहे हैं। प्रपोज मींस कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का स्टेटस, देन प्रैक्टिस में क्या है, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन कैसे है, देन प्रॉब्लम्स क्या है, देन प्रॉस्पेक्ट्स क्या है, उसका क्या करना है। I think P4 like that we are thinking in every lecture. That's why we are. This is a journey we have to continue up to November 26, 2025. Another thing, on behalf of all these organizations, I am requesting, I am announcing one thing. We are going to have a one-day national seminar at Hyderabad Center for Dalit Studies premises on 26 January. These are celebrations of 75 years Indian Constitution. I think please, my request is please come and participate in the celebrations, and it should be continue from our journey up to what we are aiming the society, what we are have a struggle to continue this. I think this is a thing. Then I will talk to you. We will talk to everybody on other day also. Please note down 26 January, Hyderabad, celebrations of 75 years Indian Constitution. I think the lectures also will come into publication. Already, I thanks to Professor K.S. Chelam. Already, he sent a draft his lecture. We will ask other the guests also, other speakers also. We are request them and give the draft or their speech in text. I welcome once again my friend Professor V. Krishna. His health is not good, that's why he didn't join. On behalf of him, I am welcoming you. On behalf of all the organizations, I am welcoming you. Please stay with us and continue up to end the lecture. Now I request Vishwapremji to introduction of the Bhanwar Meghavanshi ji. I think he's very close to Bhanwar ji from बहुत सालों से, इसलिए मैं रिक्वेस्ट कर रहा हूँ सुखदेव जी से द इंट्रोडक्शन करने के। थैंक यू विश्वप्रेम जी, प्लीज टेक ओवर।
सभी साथियों को जय भीम, गुड इवनिंग। आज का ये सिविल राइट्स मूवमेंट्स एंड इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का लेक्चर सीरीज 6 में सभी का स्वागत है। आज हमारे बीच में आदरणीय भंवर मेघवंशी जी हैं। भंवर मेघवंशी जी पिछले कई वर्षों से भारतीय संविधान के जो प्रावधान है उनको लागू करवाने की मुहिम में लगे हैं। इनकी जर्नी 13 वर्ष की उम्र में शुरू हुई जब वे आरएसएस के कांटेक्ट में आए और 91 में इन्होंने जो जातीय भेदभाव है उस मुद्दे पर जो है आरएसएस को छोड़ा। और ये पहले ऐसे क्रांतिकारी साथी हैं जिन्होंने वो पूरी जर्नी को डॉक्यूमेंट किया और 2019 में इनका पहला किताब निकला, जो आज 9 भाषाओं में उसका ट्रांसलेट हुआ है। मैं भी एक कार सेवक था। तो आज कई आंदोलनों में शरीक हैं। हम पिछले 2014 से हम पहली बार टाटा इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ सोशल साइंसेज बॉम्बे में मिले। एक प्रोग्राम था सेंटर फॉर दलित स्टडीज का, उसमें। तो इनका जर्नी आज पूरे देश भर में जितने भी आंदोलन है, नागर समाज के नागरिक अधिकार आंदोलन है, उनमें दलितों की क्या स्थिति है, उन मुद्दों पे सक्रिय हैं। और कई तरह का एक नेटवर्क है डिसोम, उसका पूरे प्रोसेस को एंकर कर रहे हैं। और वर्तमान में पीयूसीएल के राजस्थान के चेयरपर्सन है। तो मुझे खुशी हुई कि आज इनका परिचय देता हुआ, ये संक्षिप्त परिचय दिया मैंने इनका। स्वागत सभी साथियों का, धन्यवाद। और आज की सीरीज में जुड़ने के लिए स्वागत है। थैंक यू। हाँ जी सर, लक्ष्मैया सर, आगे कंटिन्यू करें।
भंवर जी प्लीज कंटिन्यू सर।
थैंक यू लक्ष्मण सर एंड सुखदेव विश्व प्रेमी जी, और सभी सभी पार्टिसिपेंट को जय भीम। बहुत शुक्रिया कि आपने ये लेक्चर सीरीज शुरू किया, संविधान समालोचन व्याख्यान माला। और कंटिन्यू जिस तरीके से आप लोगों को ला रहे हैं और मौका दे रहे हैं, उससे एक बहुत ही बढ़िया एक माहौल बन रहा है। तो मैं धन्यवाद देता हूं सेंटर फॉर दलित स्टडीज और सभी और ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस का जो इसमें लगे हुए हैं। एक्चुअली हमें आज प्रोफेसर हरगोपाल सर को सुनना है। बस मैं तो केवल उनके आने तक थोड़ी सी बातचीत अभी रखूंगा, क्योंकि सिविल राइट्स मूवमेंट के साथ काम करते हुए पिछले 20-25 सालों में जो हमने काम किया, उसमें हम सदैव ही प्रोफेसर हरगोपाल के आर्टिकल्स को पढ़ते रहे, उनको सुनते रहे और उनके बारे में सुनते रहे। तो हमारे लिए एक बहुत अच्छा मौका आज है कि हम प्रोफेसर हरगोपाल को सुनेंगे। लेकिन उनके आने तक मुझे लगता है कि ये जो आज का विषय है, नागरिक अधिकार आंदोलन और भारतीय संविधान, सिविल राइट्स मूवमेंट एंड इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, जो आज का सब्जेक्ट है, वो बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण है। मुझे लगता है कि दोनों चीजें आज सर्वाधिक खतरे में है। सिविल राइट्स मूवमेंट, सिविल राइट्स ही जो कि संविधान से आता है, वो तो खतरे में है ही, और संविधान खुद भी सबसे ज्यादा चर्चित भी है और सबसे ज्यादा खतरे की स्थिति में भी है। और जैसा कि हम सब लोग जानते हैं कि भारत का जो समाज रहा है, उसमें जिस तरह की वर्ण और जाति की व्यवस्था रही है, उस व्यवस्था में, और खास तौर पे जिसको हम कहते हैं कि मनु का जो विधान रहा है, उसमें अधिकार केवल द्विज समुदायों तक सीमित थे। और जो बहुत बड़ी संख्या का समाज था, उसके लिए कोई अधिकार जैसा कुछ था ही नहीं। आप अगर उसको पढ़ेंगे भी, अगर वर्ण व्यवस्था को, तो उसमें साफ तौर पे है कि ऊपर के जो 3 वर्ण हैं जिनको जनेऊ धारण करने का अधिकार प्राप्त है, वो अधिकार शब्द आता है उसमें। किसी को शिक्षा प्राप्त करने का अधिकार है, किसी को संपत्ति रखने का अधिकार है, और किसी को राज्य करने का अधिकार है, राज करने का अधिकार है, युद्ध करने का अधिकार है। लेकिन आप देख सकते हैं कि जो बाकी का बहुत बड़ा तबका है, उसको कोई अधिकार प्राप्त नहीं है। उसके लिए अधिकार शब्द ही इस्तेमाल नहीं किया गया, बल्कि उसके लिए कहा गया है कि उसका कर्तव्य है कि वो इन 3 वर्णों की सेवा करे, उनकी सर्विस करे। तो ये एक सर्विस क्लास के रूप में उसको रखा गया। और ये एक बहुत बड़ी आबादी के साथ ये भेदभाव जिस तरीके से इस देश में हजारों साल तक चला, मुझे लगता है कि उसके बाद उस समुदाय जिसको पूरी तरीके से दिया गया, उसके यहाँ अधिकार शब्द ही नहीं था, उसको अधिकार का कोई भाव ही नहीं बचा। तो न उसके पास शिक्षा थी, न उसके पास संपत्ति थी, न कोई जमीन थी, और एक जो स्वाभिमान होना चाहिए, जो चेतना होनी चाहिए, वो उसका भी पूरा अभाव था। और मानव होना, मुझे लगता है कि वो भी उनके लिए नहीं था। तो हम चूंकि मानवाधिकार आंदोलन के साथ मैं काम करता हूँ, खास तौर पे पीपल्स यूनियन फॉर सिविल लिबर्टीज जिसके साथ मेरा रिश्ता है, मैं अक्सर वहां जब भी बात होती है तो मैं वो भी कहता हूं कि आप मानव अधिकारों के लिए बात कर रहे हैं, लेकिन हम सबसे पहले मानव होने का जो अधिकार है उसके लिए संघर्ष कर रहे हैं। बहुत बड़ी आबादी इस देश में आज है जिनको ये आइडेंटिटी चाहिए, जिनके लिए ये भी महत्वपूर्ण है कि उनको इंसान भी माना जाता है कि नहीं माना जाता। क्योंकि इंसान माना जाए, ये सबसे महत्वपूर्ण बात है। अब इंसान आप मानेंगे तो फिर शुरू होगा मानव का अधिकार, लेकिन आप किसी को मानव ही ना माने, उसको जानवर से भी बदतर माने। और ये यहाँ की परंपरा का हिस्सा रहा है, जहां आप सुनते हैं इन सारी बातों को कि जज्जर हरियाणा में जब 5 दलितों को गाय की खाल उतारते वक्त जिंदा जला दिया गया, और उस पर जब पूछा गया कि इस तरह का एक हीनियस क्राइम दलितों के खिलाफ हुआ है, तो वीएचपी के राष्ट्रीय उस समय के जो अंतर्राष्ट्रीय महामंत्री थे गिरिराज किशोर, उन्होंने कहा कि हमारे लिए दलितों से ज्यादा पवित्र और महत्वपूर्ण गाय है। और आप ये देख सकते हैं, ये अभी भी आप देख सकते हैं जहां ऊना में गाय के नाम पर दलितों को किस तरीके से पीटा गया, या बहुत बड़ी तादाद में जगह जगह पर लिंच किया जा रहा है लोगों को जानवरों के लिए कि वो गाय का तस्करी करते हैं या गाय का मांस खाते हैं या इन सब चीजों को लेकर के। तो कहाँ पहुंचा दिया गया है चीजों को कि इंसान से भी नीचे जब माना जाए। और हम ये भी देखते हैं कि बहुत बड़ी आबादी के हाथ का टच किया हुआ पानी नहीं पीते हैं लोग, लेकिन जानवरों का मलमूत्र अ, खा लेते हैं और पी लेते हैं। तो ये जो परिस्थिति है समाज में, ये और भयानक थी पहले, जब वर्ण के आधार पे समाज था और किसी भी प्रकार का अधिकार बहुत बड़ी आबादी को नहीं था। खास तौर पे जो यहाँ का जो तबका है SC ST, और आज का माइनॉरिटी आपको आप उसको कह सकते हैं, और महिलाएं किसी भी वर्ग की थी, वो सभी शूद्र ही थी और वो अधिकार विहीन ही थी। उन सबको अगर कोई अधिकार देने का काम हुआ है, तो मुझे लगता है कि वो भारत के संविधान ने किया है। और संविधान इसलिए बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है, और जैसा मल्लपल्ली लक्ष्मैया जी ने कहा भी कि संविधान केवल एक डॉक्यूमेंट नहीं है, वो एक किताब नहीं है। उसको केवल एक शास्त्र की तरीके से हम नहीं देखते हैं कि भाई ये किताब कुछ लोगों ने मिल करके, देश भर के लोग आए इकट्ठा और बाबा साहब अम्बेडकर की अध्यक्षता में उस प्रारूप समिति ने बैठ करके और उसको फाइनल कर दिया और उसको लागू कर दिया। वो वैसा नहीं है। मुझे लगता है कि संविधान एक जीवंत डॉक्यूमेंट है, जिसको हम देख सकते हैं कि वो कितना महत्वपूर्ण तरीके से लोगों की जिंदगी को बदलता है। तो संविधान सभा की पूरी बहस आप देखेंगे, संविधान के निर्माण का पूरा अगर आप उसकी यात्रा को आप देखते हैं, तो वो एक तरीके से शुरू होती है 1930 के आसपास, और फिर वो चलती है आगे। फिर साइमन कमीशन, फिर पूना पैक्ट, उसके बाद 1935 का इंडियन गवर्नमेंट एक्ट, जिसमें बहुत सारी चीजें आती है। फिर 1937 में इलेक्शन, जो कि एक तरीके से निर्वाचन का जो अधिकार है वो लोगों को मिलता है। और फिर संविधान निर्माण का जो काम चलता है, संविधान सभा की आप डिबेट को अगर देखेंगे, तो उस डिबेट में भी आपको ये नजर आता है, जहां पर वो लोग जो ऑर्थोडॉक्स लोग थे, कट्टर लोग थे, फंडामेंटलिस्ट थे, वो फिर से कर्तव्य पर जोर देते हैं। उनको लगता है कि नहीं, सबको जो एक वोटिंग राइट्स है, सबको वयस्क मताधिकार है, वो नहीं दिया जा सकता, वो सबके लिए नहीं होना चाहिए। वो केवल भीड़ को ऐसा देना ठीक बात नहीं है। ये भी आप संविधान सभा की बहस में देख सकते हैं। तो वहां जब समानता की बात आती है तो उसका विरोध होता है, सबके लिए न्याय की बात आती है, आजादी की बात आती है तो उसका विरोध होता है। तो संविधान निर्माण की प्रक्रिया को जब आप देखेंगे तो आपको लगेगा कि ये कितना महत्वपूर्ण दस्तावेज है, जिसको बनाने के लिए हमारे देश के तमाम उस समय के जो हमारे रहनुमा थे, रहबर थे, महबूब लीडर थे, वो लोग बैठे और उन्होंने इस काम को करने में पूरी भूमिका निभाई। तो आप संविधान, और जब संविधान लागू हुआ तो संविधान के जो अनुच्छेद 14 से 35 को आप देखेंगे तो उसमें नागरिक अधिकारों की के बारे में विस्तार से आपको उसमें जानकारी मिलती है। और ये सारी जो चीजें हैं जो हमारे प्रियम्बल में हमारे से वादा है, समता, स्वतंत्रता, बंधुता और न्याय का, उन वादों को एक तरीके से मौलिक अधिकारों के रूप में ढालने का जो काम किया गया, वो चाहे समानता का अधिकार है, जो स्वतंत्रता का अधिकार है, अभिव्यक्ति का अधिकार है, जीने का अधिकार है, न्याय प्राप्ति के जो अधिकार है, वो सब उसमें आप देख सकते हैं। मुझे लगता है कि जो आर्थिक, सामाजिक, राजनीतिक न्याय का वादा प्रियम्बल में है, और उससे आगे हम जाते हैं जब देश की एकता, अखंडता की बात करते हुए व्यक्ति की गरिमा और अवसरों की समानता की बात हमारा संविधान करता है। वो भी बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण एक बात है, क्योंकि व्यक्ति की गरिमा जो है वो कहीं हमारे समाज का हिस्सा ही नहीं रही है। आप अगर देखेंगे तो यहाँ पर एक व्यक्ति दूसरे व्यक्ति को अपमानित करने में, एक जाति दूसरी जाति को अपमानित करने में जिस तरीके से लगी रही है और जिस तरीके से वो काम करती रही है, उसमें कहीं पे भी व्यक्ति को, व्यक्ति की जो सम्मान की बात है वो नजर ही नहीं आती है। तो व्यक्ति की गरिमा सबसे महत्वपूर्ण बात है हमारे संविधान की। और इसका भी आप डिबेट में जब जाएंगे तो इसका भी बड़ा विरोध किया गया, और वो उन लोगों ने विरोध किया जो आज संविधान का विरोध कर रहे हैं। उन लोगों ने कहा नहीं, व्यक्ति क्या होता है, व्यक्ति पर नहीं ये केंद्रित होना चाहिए, ये सब कुछ व्यक्तियों को अधिकार दे दिया गया है, जबकि ये समुदायों को अधिकार दिया जाना चाहिए। आप इस बहस में जो महीन एक चीज है, एक बारीक चीज है भेदभाव की, उस पर आप नजर डालेंगे तो आपको समझ में आएगा कि जब भी लोग गांवों को अधिकार देते हैं, जब भी लोग समुदायों को अधिकार देते हैं, तो वो व्यक्ति की स्वतंत्रता को, व्यक्तिगत न्याय को, व्यक्तिगत बराबरी और प्रतिष्ठा को रोंद देते हैं। और इसको कभी भी रिकॉग्नाइज नहीं किया गया। और जब भी कहा गया व्यक्ति की समानता की बात, तो ये जरूर कहा गया कि भगवान की नजर में सब बराबर है, लेकिन इंसान की नजर में इंसान बराबर है, ये उद्घोषणा अगर किसी ने की तो वो भारत के संविधान ने की। उससे पहले कोई ऐसी उद्घोषणा आपको दिखाई नहीं देती। आप ला सकते हैं बहुत सारी बातें, कह सकते हैं कि पूरी दुनिया हमारा घर था, पूरी दुनिया को हमने परिवार माना, ये किया वो किया, ये सब बातें हैं, ये अच्छी लगती है बातें। और हमारे भक्ति काल के कवियों ने,
ब-
जिनको हम क्रांतिकारी कहते हैं,
ब-
उन्होंने भी ये सब बातें कही थी।
Babar ji,
क्या?
please, sorry, sir. Professor Haragopal already joined. Welcome,
ओ
sir.
यस यस यस, या ठीक। तो मुझे लगता है
Sir,
बस मैं उसको, मैं
please
उसको,
unmute कर लीजिए सर, प्लीज अनम्यूट कर लीजिए।
या तो मैं प्रोफेसर हरगोपाल का परिचय दे दूं।
परिचय कर लीजिए,
या
परिचय कर लीजिए सर आप।
हाँ
या
ठीक है। तो सर मैं आपका परिचय बस 1-2 मिनट में मैं आपका परिचय देता हूं, फिर आप बोलेंगे। बहुत वेलकम सर, आपका बहुत धन्यवाद, और हमारे लिए बहुत खुशी की बात है कि आप हमारे साथ आए हैं। तो प्रोफेसर हरगोपाल सर जो हैं वो हैदराबाद यूनिवर्सिटी के सोशल साइंस डिपार्टमेंट के डीन रहे हैं, और वहां से सेवानिवृत्त प्रोफेसर हैं। और देश के बहुत नामी यूनिवर्सिटीज के साथ आप जुड़े रहे हैं। बेंगलोर नेशनल लॉ स्कूल ऑफ इंडिया यूनिवर्सिटी में आप विजिटिंग प्रोफेसर के रूप में पब्लिक पॉलिसी मास्टर प्रोग्राम में पढ़ाते हैं। और इसके अलावा आपने कई प्रकार, दिल्ली विश्वविद्यालय, इंडियन इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ एडवांस स्टडीज शिमला, नॉर्थ ईस्ट हिल यूनिवर्सिटी शिलोंग, इन सब में विजिटिंग प्रोफेसर आप रहे हैं। और यूजीसी के बहुत लंबे समय तक आप राष्ट्रीय व्याख्याता रहे हैं। ऑक्सफोर्ड, लंदन विश्वविद्यालय, कॉर्नेल यूनिवर्सिटी यूएसए वगैरह में आपके बहुत ही चर्चित व्याख्यान हो चुके हैं। उपसला विश्वविद्यालय स्वीडन में भी आप विजिटिंग प्रोफेसर रहे हैं। और सबसे महत्वपूर्ण बात ये जो मैं कह रहा हूं, ये सब उनका एकेडमिक परिचय है, पर जो जिस बात के लिए प्रोफेसर जी हरगोपाल जाने जाते हैं इस देश में और बहुत सम्मानित है, हम जैसे जो सिविल राइट्स मूवमेंट में काम करने वाले लोगों के लिए वो बहुत प्रेरणा के स्रोत है, वो बात है उनका नागरिक अधिकार आंदोलनों के साथ पिछले 40 से 50 साल का जो पूरा जुड़ाव रहा है। और एक तरीके से भारत में नागरिक अधिकार, मानवाधिकार आंदोलन को एक शेप देने में, उसको व्याख्यायित करने में प्रोफेसर हरगोपाल सर का बहुत बड़ा योगदान रहा है। तो मैं आपका बहुत हृदय से स्वागत करता हूं सर, और आपको आमंत्रित करता हूं कि आज की इस व्याख्यान को आप प्रेजेंट
Yeah,
करें। प्रोफेसर गोपाल।
I'm so sorry that no, I joined very late because the place where I am sitting, we had a problem in connecting, or entering the system. So sorry, I mean, but I'm thankful to Mr. Malipal Lakshmaya, who has been a friend for a very long time. He has been an activist, and he has a lot of concerns about the democracy, and particularly Ambedkar's perspective of democracy. And several organizations have joined together to organize this program for 75 weeks. Perhaps it must be one of the most unprecedented program where lectures are being given by such a large number of scholars on Indian Constitution. Now, I think we have seen in the recent election, and even now, all the political parties in India are promising and trying to uphold the Constitution. Even some of those who are very critical of the Constitution today are claiming and owning the Constitution of India. Perhaps that's the strength of the Indian Constitution. And the people's demand or people's claim and owning the Constitution of India, I think is something remarkable that is happening in India. Now, coming to the Indian Constitution and civil liberties, I think basically the Constitution of India is a product of freedom struggle. Number one. Two, Indian Constitution was being drafted at a time when the Universal Declaration of International Declaration, Universal Declaration of Human Rights was being drafted by the United Nations. So it coincides. That's why if you look at the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the Indian Constitution, you find a resonance or the reflection of the Constitution and with Universal Declaration. Now, one of the major debate both in the Universal Declaration and also when the Constitution of India was being drafted is economic rights versus am I audible? Yeah.
Yes.
The major controversy between economic rights and civil and political rights. And in the Indian Constitution, thanks to the vision of Baba Sahib Ambedkar, that in the part 3 of the Indian Constitution, you find that from the Universal Declaration from Article 3 to Article 19, and from Article 19 to 27, you find social, economic, and civil rights. Now, Indian Constitution therefore promises freedom to the people in the part 3 and social justice in the part 4. There was a debate on the part 4 of the Constitution that it is not justiciable. Why should we have a part of the Constitution which is not justiciable? Because Constitution is such a document that everything written in the Constitution is sacrosanct. And why should we have one part of the Constitution which is not justiciable, which is not enforceable by force of the law? But Dr. Ambedkar made one prophetic statement that the importance of Part 4 of Indian Constitution would be known if right-wing politics take over. Then it is now people will start demanding for justice, because the pro-capital or growth forces, if they take over power, they would start emphasizing on the rapid growth, and and then the justice concerns may get marginalized. And therefore, he said, let there be this part of the Constitution. People will start using this part of the Constitution when the part 3, is in trouble, or the justice concerns, are threatened. Exactly what's happening is what is happening today is exactly what Dr. Ambedkar feared. He feared that Indian politics may get into the right-wing model of development, and in the process, equity, justice, and whatever has been promised in the preamble of the Constitution, whether it's the equality, liberty, fraternity, which are so fundamental for the human civilization. So they are civilizational values. They are the products of a long struggle of the people, for peace, justice, equality, and liberty. So these are the values which are incorporated. Now, the problem with the Constitution, or limitation of the Constitution, is that while Constitution promises the justice, how to enforce justice, what is the mechanism through which you implement or enforce these rights, is not very clear. It's not very clear, because that's left the mechanism. At least part 3 courts can enforce, but what to do with the part 4 of the Constitution is not enforced, but how do you enforce them? That's where civil rights movement become very important. Civil rights movement has been asking, number one, for the rule of law, number one, for the constitutional morality. Civil liberties movements have been insisting on the state, and the civil liberties movement has taken the constitutional promise, constitutional values, and in addition to that, the civil rights movement has added a new dimension to the Constitution of India, that if people's movement come with the new aspirations as the history moves on, and when the experience starts unfolding, then there'll be new needs of the people, new aspirations of the people, because of the growing consciousness. People start feeling that whatever rights have been guaranteed, in addition to those rights, people want more rights, new rights, environmental rights, what debates are going on, they might not be there in the Constitution, but this part we call democratic rights. So the difference between civil liberties and democratic rights movement is that while civil liberties movement demand for the enforcement of the constitutional, rights, and the democratic rights demand new rights to be incorporated. So that's how, in India, we had a right to information. We had, of course, right to education. Several new rights have been have been given to the people of India as a part of, struggle. For example, gender consciousness, environmental consciousness. So these rights become very important. Civil rights movement has been asking for enforcement of rule of law, and uh, Hello?
आवाज नहीं आ रही है.
Yeah.
Sir,
Yeah. Shall I continue?
Yes, sir.
Hello? Shall I
Yes, sir.
continue?
Please continue. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I think there's
Please
some.
continue, sir.
Yeah,
You do not need a video. You
Yeah,
just
yeah.
speak only, sir.
Yeah, there is some disturbance in the phone. So
Please unmute, sir.
yeah, I'll continue. So the difference between civil liberties movement and the democratic rights movement has been that as society progresses, as the consciousness of people demands new rights, so these rights have to be incorporated in the constitutional. Now, if you look at the evolution of this development of 75 years, now in the 75 years, you find that first 2 decades, yes, there was a government which had a rule of law and Nehruvian model of development, but from 1960s, the people's struggles have picked up. And there were a number of movements in India, regional movements, sub-regional movements, autonomy movements, secessionist movements, Naxal movements. Now you find that between 67 and 71, there were several, demands. And these new aspirations of the people started manifesting in various movements. And therefore, poverty and abolition of poverty has come onto the agenda by Mrs. Gandhi, who said that now the development to the people, and therefore she said that abolition of poverty or Garibi Hatao, whatever is there, and she had a 21-point formula. In that, lots of aspirations of people got reflected. But then, what has happened is that when Mrs. Gandhi made a promise to the masses of this country, marginalized people of the country, when she brought in the monopoly restriction practices, question of land reforms, question of nationalization of banks, this led to new aspirations of the people. But at the same time, this, though the organized classes, the upper caste or the economic class, they felt a little bit threatened by this model. So the classes, the dominant classes were feeling insecure, and the masses are, their aspirations were going up. Now, this led to a situation where managing the society or governing the society has become a problem for the state. And therefore, she imposed emergency in the country. Emergency came as an eye-opener to the people of India, to the middle classes and all that, that the fundamental rights guaranteed in the Indian Constitution can be suspended. This led to a new awareness in the society that there is a threat to the civil rights, there is a threat to the fundamental rights. And that led to the civil rights movement. If you look at the PUCL, if you look at different civil liberties organizations, although they started in the late 60s, early 70s, but post 1977, the human rights movement or civil rights movement in this country has picked up. And people realize that unless there is an awareness, there is a consciousness, there is a organized assertion, there is always a threat to the Constitution of India or to the civil liberties of India. That civil liberties movement has picked up. But now the fundamental question is the relation between the state and the people. State is organized force, and the people are guaranteed certain freedoms. The question of civil liberties arises because when you have guaranteed freedoms and power to the state, the struggle between power and freedom has been a continuous process ever since some conception of a written constitution came, where the rule of law came. Rule of law, what it does is that it gives power to the state, and rights to the people, and the power of the state is limited by the rule of law. Law limits the power of the state. But the experience all over the world has been that while the power given by the rule of law is used, the limits that the constitution or the law, encodes, those, they start violating. In other words, power has to be regulated, and power has to be regulated through a law. And the state has to behave or interact or use the force within the limits of the law. But how do you ensure it? And therefore, unless you have a rights movement in the civil society or in the society, the state has the propensity to violate the limits of the law. But the limits of the law can be, ensured only if there is a vibrant civil society. And civil rights movement is a part of that vibrant society. It keeps on asking the state, please stick to the rule of law, ensure the rule of law. Now, when civil rights movement picked up and started demanding that the state should limit its use of force within the boundaries of the law, then the state started changing the law itself. And that's how, from the preventive detention to, TADA, POTA, now UPA, and several laws, Armed Forces, Special Powers Act, several, repressive laws have come. So therefore, now whenever the civil liberties or the society challenges the use of the force, excessive use of the force or violation of the rule of law, what the state is doing is, instead of sticking to the rule of law, it is trying to change the law. So if you look at the history of the repressive laws in this country, several repressive laws have come. But thanks to the civil rights movement and the awareness, and there is a Dalit movement, there is a tribal movement, there is a women's movement, there are several movements. Most of the sections of the society have been, have become conscious. Now, because they have become conscious, TADA and POTA, both, one is repealed, one lapsed. This, I think, is great achievement of the civil rights movement in this country. When we were running a human rights program in University of Hyderabad, America passed a patriotic act, which when we compared something like the RUPA, TADA and POTA, and Americans were fighting against the patriotic act. So a civil liberties association from America, American Civil Liberty, came to University of Hyderabad to discuss how we got TADA and POTA, scrapped. How, we succeeded in fighting against repressed laws, and Indian state had to, withdraw those laws. So therefore, TADA and POTA, but then these are the draconian laws. But when the UPA has been, brought in, what has happened is that these draconian provisions of these laws got incorporated into UPA, and UPA has become a part of the jurisprudence of the country. UPA doesn't have a time lag. It doesn't have, any of the limitations, normally state ensures. Whenever TADA was introduced or POTA, they said this is the time, 1 year, 2 years, give us some extra powers, will regulate the society and then withdraw the law. This was always, whenever a repressive law is ensured or introduced, state promises the parliament and in turn to the people that these laws are not going to be there permanent. These laws are very temporary measure in order to face an extraordinary situation. And once that situation comes under control, we'll withdraw these laws. But UPA is not like that. UPA has become a part of the jurisprudence of the country. It has become, there is no time limit, and it has given excessive power to the state. And the last 10 years, we have seen how the state can use its institutions, how state can, erode a certain fundamental basic structure of the Constitution of India. And therefore, these 10 years, people started feeling there is a threat to the Constitution itself. And and once, this threat is felt, now how do you really ensure the Constitution? And therefore, Indian Constitution, while the dominant groups are almost disowning the Constitution of India, people of India are owning the Constitution. This is one of the very significant developments in the civil rights movement and in the evolution of the constitution. Now, people say that this is our constitution. This is written by the people concerned, and Baba Sahib Ambedkar contributed substantially to this constitution because he was committed more, pro-people, or he was pro-people, and therefore he has drafted the constitution, and Constituent Assembly thought of the freedoms of the people as important as the power of the state. Now, if the power of the state is encroaching or eroding the, human rights, and the state is crossing all the limits, what does the society do? What do the people do? And therefore, now Constitution has become an instrument in the hands of the people to fight for the restoration of the rights and regulation of the state power and the restoration of freedoms of the people. Now, I think historically we're at a critical juncture. And because we're at a critical juncture historically, the last elections were really fought around the constitution. Constitution became one of the important agenda of politics of this country. And we have seen in the last 3-4 months that how the, all political parties, including the party which was, violating the rights of the people, including that, party, every party is now saying that only in the last 1 week, the development has been that the Samvidan, Gaurav Yatra, Save the Constitution of India, and Rahul Gandhi and the Congress Party has been taking the Constitution and going to the people saying this is the Constitution we'll uphold. Even the ruling party now is saying no, we'll go by the Constitution and we'll respect the Constitution. Now this is a result of, I would say, partly the civil rights movement or democratic rights movement or human rights, whatever you may call, these movements contributed to the growing consciousness of the society. And Dalit movement, women's movement, tribal movement, environmental movement, all these movements have contributed to the growing consciousness. Dalit movements, contribution is no less about the rights of the Dalits. Tribal struggles are, so important because the tribal struggles have been there for 200 years. But today, tribals of this country are fighting for protecting Schedule 5 of the Indian Constitution. Now, that means how relevant the Constitution of India to the lives of the people is now unfolding, and what potential Constitution of India has in terms of, popular, people's interests and people's aspiration. So this is a tribute to the Constitution of India that today that people are fighting for protecting the Constitution. That means trying to protect the values enshrined in the Constitution. And those values are values not produced in one generation. Generations of people fought for engendering these rights. Now, for example, liberty. Such a great struggle, such a great sacrifice has gone into the notion of getting the liberty. And liberty, if you read the book of J.S. Mill, he talks of unrestrained freedom of thought. Although he says there is a limit for freedom of action, but human beings should have complete freedom to think, so that you do not know ideas which are generated by one generation may not immediately be felt, but they'll be relevant to future generations. Sacrifice of Socrates or struggle of, Spartacus, they are still relevant. We still keep getting inspired by Socrates because he fought for the freedom of thought. So therefore, the liberty, equality, so much of sacrifice human beings made to, have this idea of equality and fraternity. Baba Sahib Ambedkar included fraternity in the Constitution, the preamble after partition, because partition has led to huge violence and such a large number of killings on both the sides. And then he thought that unless you promote fraternity, where people learn living together, respecting plurality, respecting diversity of the society, and unless you protect this type of conflict between one religion, another religion, or one region, another region, or one caste, another caste, the only solution is that people should learn to live together by respecting each other. That means, in other words, we have to create a humane society, a very democratic, a very participative society. Therefore, I would call that the aspirations of the human being is what has been the historical, experience, and what's that the history leaves for us. I would say that we want a society which is economically egalitarian, politically participative, socially harmonious, morally elevating, ecologically sustainable, and of course, aesthetically pleasing society. We have to move in that direction. As things stand today, Constitution of India somewhere has this dream built into the constitutional scheme of things. And therefore, today, people upholding the Constitution and the civil rights movement getting into different domains is partly to demand, implement the constitutional morality. So civil rights movement is enriching Constitution of India, enlarging the scope of Constitution of India and the meaning of, life, and see how, life should be organized. I think therefore there is a dream in the Constitution of India, and civil rights movement are a part of the realization of that dream. And therefore, civil rights movement and the Constitution of India. In other words, civil rights movement is a struggle to realize the aspirations of the Constitution of India. That's how one should look at the constitutional promise and the rights movement, in India or in different parts of the world. Yeah, I stop here and look forward to, I don't know whether there's interaction, but anyway, I stop here. Yeah.
Bawarji. Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sir, please ask the questions.
लक्ष्मण सर, आपकी आवाज नहीं ठीक से आ रही है.
Please invite the
Thank you.
questions, sir.
थैंक यू वेरी मच प्रोफेसर हरगोपाल सर. मुझे लगता है कि अब हम सवालों के लिए इसको अभी खोलते हैं. तो आपके जो सवाल है हरगोपाल सर से, तो आप उठा सकते हैं. आप चैट बॉक्स में भी लिख सकते हैं, और आप हाँ, डॉक्टर नवीन नारायण, आपका हैंड रेज है. आप प्लीज अपना सवाल पूछिए.
Yeah. So I'm very thankful to you, sir, because you decided and elaborate many things. So my simple question is that the Constitution portray and written society should be like this, quote unquote, but it is not like this. Then what are the remedies and steps taken by the Dalits? Because you elaborate that Dalitism and so many other things, Muslim Samuday and women issues, as well as the tribal issues and Naxal movements and all. So what are the final steps Dalit society can take to achieve the society like put it out in the Constitution? That is my question. Thanks a lot, once.
See, if there is one group in India which needs, the protection of the rights, it is the Dalits, because the violation of rights in the general population is different from that of Dalits. For centuries of, discrimination, centuries of, exploitation, centuries of humiliation, this group has suffered. And therefore, today, a Dalit is far more conscious because of the Dalit movement than ever before. I'll give you one example. When I went to one of the districts in Telangana, and I met the landlord. Landlord was very angry because there was a people's movement. And then when I went to a Dalit locality, I asked Dalits that your landlord is very angry. Then one of the Dalits said that the dust under his feet has fallen in his eyes. I would say this is a very, very profound statement. That what was the dust particle yesterday under the feet of this person, today it is troubling him. Troubling because they're questioning the type of dominance, they're questioning the type of exploitation, they're questioning type of his, the way he interacts with the people. sexual exploitation, economic exploitation, humiliation. Now Dalits in this country have become far more conscious. Still, the full restoration of the dignity and self-respect of Dalit, which Baba Sahib Ambedkar has been emphasizing, still they remain a little distant. And the Dalit movement, while fighting for their dignity and self-respect, since they are the people marginalized on the ladder, they are at the lower ring of the ladder. If that section becomes conscious, and if that section, the section which is at the bottom, if it starts questioning, the entire structure starts moving. The Dalit movement, becomes very important because, it is they. And if once a most oppressive man questions, the rest of the society starts questioning. So Dalit movement's historical significance is that it is questioning the structure, and we have multiple structures of dominance. But the dominance that is being questioned by the Dalit contributes to the questioning of the very structures of dominance in the rest of the society. So Dalit movement's contribution has been substantial. Only thing is there has been certain fragmentation, polarization. Yes, these things do happen because no society changes without hiccups. There are certain hiccups. But the solidarity of the Dalits now has become one of the important questions. But a united struggle of the Dalits and Dalit women, Dalit poorer sections and the Dalit elite who have emerged because of the reservations and because of the constitutional guarantees. Today, there's a large section of society like, Malayapal Lakshmi. He's a product of a long struggle. And these are the people who articulate, and these are the people who, conduct such programs in order to see that there is a greater education. So Dalit of this country have made a significant contribution, and greater the movement questioning the oppressive structure, I think the rest of the sections, other sections of the society equally benefit. That would be the contribution of the Dalit movement to the democratization and humanization of the society. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
I think कोई सवाल और जो श्रेष्ठा जी, आप सवाल पूछेंगे या चैट बॉक्स में?
Good. Yes, sir. Good evening,
yeah.
sir. Jai Bhim, sir. So my
Yeah.
question is, Dalits from history fought a lot to get many rights which violated their rights, sir. But why and where they are lacking in political empowerment to make their laws own, or by coming into legislation, sir, where they are lacking in the political power, sir?
No, see, this problem Dr. Ambedkar has envisaged. That's why when he was fighting for the separate electorates, the idea was that Dalit representatives should represent exclusively the Dalit community so that they would be responsible to their own community because he is elected by them. But Gandhi was opposed to that. And so therefore the confrontation reached a particular point that Baba Sahib said, no, the Pune Pact, is a product of this confrontation. And I think this prophecy of Dr. Ambedkar that if you have a mixed constituency, if a general constituency, but reserved for a Dalit, since Dalits constitute maybe 20%, 30%, some constitute maybe 30%, but the majority will not be Dalits. So therefore, the representative always feels that he also responsible for the rest of the constituency. So therefore, although he got elected from a reserved constituency, he's representing the entire constituency. This created a dilemma, and therefore the public representatives whom the people are electing, they have to play a very important role, but they belong to a particular political party, and the party control is there over them, and therefore no, they have to go by the whip of the party. So there are certain limitations on the public representatives, but there are some very powerful representatives emerged from this entire process. But you are right when you say that, what role the representatives can play, what type of role, power can play. I think still this debate is going on. And there has to be greater pressure on the public representatives from these sections of the society saying that you are accountable, you are there by virtue of, the backwardness of the community or, the historical process, you are there. And therefore you have to, represent, you have to pressurize and see that, Dalits' rights are enforced and Dalits' rights are enlarged. And, the Dalits, acquire, their dignity and self-respect. Say this role they have to play, but they will be able to play that role provided there is a very vibrant movement in the society. So I would therefore say that civil rights movement or Dalit movement and representatives of, these communities have this problem. But if there is a pressure, not only on Dalit represent, but the overall system, then I think there will be certain results. So these separate electorates, we have to continue the debate. We can't stop the debate. I hope that Lakshmi Garu would organize a debate or a lecture on separate electorates and the notion of separate electorates or relevance of separate electorates. I think would be very useful. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
और कोई साथी? हाँ, प्लीज.
Sir, I am from Himachal Pradesh, engineer M.R. Dodoj. Sir, I want to ask the question that the sizable population of the Dalits are following the ways of temples and deras and hypocrisy instead of going to the constitutional rights. How it can be diverted to bring them in the mainstream through preamble of constitution and rule of law. My suggestion also that it should be mixed in Hindi and English. So many people, the most of the population of SC and STs, they are not understanding the English very well, and it should be it will be in the favor of that population if you mix the language and try to understand them regarding these issues which the series is going on. Thank you very much.
See, Paulo Freire, in his Pedagogy of the Oppressed, he says that the transitional societies move from the culture of silence to semi-intransitive condition to critical consciousness. These are the three stages of growing consciousness. India at this point of time is in that semi-intransitive condition, where Dalits are conscious. They are conscious of their rights. They have voices which can articulate their aspirations, but we have not reached that critical consciousness. So therefore, but this is only one stage. This happens at a middle stage. But one step forward, when they really understand, and acquire that critical consciousness, what you say now, or whatever is happening at this point of time, should be considered as a transition from a very culture of silence where people were silent, people were suffering. But from that, today we reached the semi-intransitive condition. It's a sort of semi-conscious society. But from their own experience, they will realize that the question they have been asking, or whatever they are demanding, or whatever the politics, this manipulative politics, or whatever you may call it, takes a little time. But sure that having reached this semi-intransitive condition, they will never go back to culture of silence. That's not possible. In history, you can never push back a community or a society to backwards. Temporarily, these things happen. But I think we are waiting for that critical point where the Dalits and other sections of the society, if they cross that line, then this type of politics will not work. And the society will become truly democratic. But it takes time, and we are in a transition.
Okay, okay. Right. Right, right. Thanks.
Is it over, sir?
हाँ निर्मल जी, पूछिए पूछिए अपना सवाल।
सर मेरा ये क्वेश्चन है कि जो दलित अधिकारों के जो प्रश्न हैं उनके जो इश्यूज हैं उसको मुख्य धारा में, और स्पेशली मैं बात कर रहा हूँ फाइनेंस और इकोनॉमिक्स और प्राइवेट सेक्टर और उससे, बिकॉज मैं वहां से आता हूँ और मैं आपको बता सकता हूँ कि मेन स्ट्रीम डिस्कोर्स में हम लोग डाइवर्सिटी की बात तो करते हैं, डाइवर्सिटी की हर उसमें एक डाइवर्सिटी पॉलिसी होती है यहाँ पे कि डाइवर्सिटी के नाम पे, ठीक है, वुमेन राइट्स डेफिनेटली जो है वो आज रिकॉग्नाइज की जाते हैं इन द मेन स्ट्रीम, लेकिन जो दलित अधिकारों के जो प्रश्न है, मैं आपको अपने एक्सपीरियंस से बता सकता हूँ कि ज्यादातर 90% जो जॉब्स हैं, बहुत सारे जो प्रोफेशनल जॉब्स है सो कॉल्ड, वो सिर्फ और सिर्फ कुछ ही कास्ट और कुछ ही सोशल सेगमेंट्स के लिए रिजर्व है, फॉर ऑल प्रैक्टिकल पर्पसेस वो रिजर्व है। तो कैसे ये जो दलित अधिकारों के जो प्रश्न, इनको प्राइवेट सेक्टर, बिकॉज आज पूरा फाइनेंस, पूरा इकोनॉमी जो है वो वहां से गवर्न हो रहा है, कैसे लेके जाए? थैंक यू।
तो आप जो सवाल पूछे हैं, आप जो है रिजर्वेशंस इन द प्राइवेट सेक्टर वो इश्यू आ गए हैं, वो तो मोमेंट पिकअप नहीं हुआ, मगर अब एजेंडा में है। तो आप ही जो क्वेश्चन पूछे हैं, आप ये क्वेश्चन इसीलिए पूछे कि आज जो है सवाल ये गवर्नमेंट का जॉब सर, वो पब्लिक एम्प्लॉयमेंट श्रिंकिंग, अब द प्राइवेट सेक्टर इज एक्सपैंडिंग नाउ, देयरफॉर द डिमांड इज ग्रेजुअली इमर्जिंग and it will pick up, obviously. Professor Thorat has, is publishing 3 books. And one is discrimination in the public policy, discrimination in the market, discrimination in the society. There are 3 types of discrimination. Though we are fighting for the discrimination in the market, in terms of the reservation in the private sector and all that, so the market logic. And we are questioning that market logic of market can do whatever it wants to do. We want market also to be sensitive to social justice. And if you look at the public policies government, वो भी हम जो है आज we are questioning, वो भी हम क्वेश्चन कर रहे हैं। अब सोशल डिस्क्रिमिनेशन जो है, अनटचेबिलिटी, डोमिनेंस एंड डिप्राइवेशन, ये जो है वो तो बहुत कॉन्शियसनेस हो गए। तो 3 सवाल जो है आप जो पूछे हैं कि ये अब 90% people are not getting opportunities. I think this thinking which Professor Thorat has been working for such a long time, I think that throws up the challenges to the Indian state. They are raising the question that you have guaranteed dignity, self-respect and all that, but they have not been realized. Now we find discrimination is there in the market. Earlier, we wanted representation in the state power, both in the parliament, legislatures, and also in the administration. All that, right? That to some extent is implemented. But what about the market discrimination? So the question here is that whether there will be reservations, social justice. So market not only should be interested in the growth, but it is socially accountable, what you corporate responsibility. There, I think we have to raise this question. And the discrimination within the social structure. Anyway, the struggles are going on. Today, the upper caste cannot do, they are, trying to inflict violence and all that, but this can't go for long. If there is they are inflicting violence because now they feel threatened, and the violence is both. It is, an indication of growing consciousness of the people also. And that's the reason why they have to use force in order to silence the people. But the question that you have posed is that the answer is in your question, that these things are happening, what do we do? And we have to raise these questions in a much more articulate way and see that our Dalit friends and, our other marginalized sections together fight for justice in the marketplace. public and private enterprise, corporate sector and all that. I think, yeah, this will come up. Yeah. Lakshmi Garu,
कोई और
I
कोई
think we
और
will
सवाल? अच्छा,
stop here, sir, because we may have this, meeting. CM is still, but so.
हरगोपाल सर, आखिरी आखिरी एक सवाल मैं आपसे पूछता हूँ कि ये जो अभी गवर्नमेंट है वो पूरी तरीके से मानव अधिकार को दानव अधिकार कहती है, और जितने भी ह्यूमन राइट ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस है, मूवमेंट है, उन सबको बदनाम करने में, उनको परेशान करने में लगी हुई है। तो ऐसी स्थिति में ये जो सिचुएशन है प्रेजेंट सिनेरियो में, उसमें सिविल राइट्स मूवमेंट को कैसे काम करना चाहिए, आप कैसे देखते हैं उसको?
नहीं, सी, आज जो वायलेशंस हो रहे हैं, सी, यू मस्ट रीड इन ए डायलेक्टिकल वे. जो वायलेशंस, जो मैनिपुलेशंस, जो रिप्रेशन हो रहे हैं, from the other side, this is happening because precisely there is a growing consciousness, right? And this is a passing phase. What happened in emergency? No, emergency had to be given up. So therefore, I think this growing consciousness in the society this is a result of that. It's not a result of the state's oppression, but dialectically, why state uses so much of manipulation, so much of whatever is happening around us. This is happening because people today are more conscious. Supposing it's a culture of silence, they don't need all this. But from culture of silence, we moved away. We have moved forward. Last elections, we have seen that the Bharatiya Janata Party lost the election. Let's also understand that they didn't get the majority. They wanted 400. But the people gave, just 230, 240. What does it indicate? These politics have a limit. This limit cannot be crossed. And people are becoming conscious. So I think we have to keep on working with certain optimism and with a hope that things will change. Right? Right now, I agree with you that situation is very, very threatening. Situation is very frustrating as things stand today. But I don't think this will last for long. It's my answer.
थैंक यू वेरी मच हरगोपाल सर। आपने बहुत बहुत बिजी और सीएम के वहाँ अपॉइंटमेंट के होते हुए भी आपने जो समय दिया और जो लेक्चर दिया उसके लिए आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। थैंक यू वेरी मच। लक्ष्मैया सर।
सर थैंक यू वेरी मच सर। थैंक यू टू बावर जी एंड हरगोपाल सर। हरगोपाल सर ने बहुत सालों से मैं उसका काम के वास्ते से देखा, उसका पर्सनालिटी, कैरेक्टर, ऑल दोस थिंग्स इज वेरी मच pioneer in the civil rights movement in India. I think
लक्ष्मैया सर, आपको नहीं, आपकी आवाज नहीं सुन पा रहे हैं।
नहीं आ रहा है आवाज।
कनेक्शन को ठीक करें।
आवाज अभी आ रहा है? अभी आ रहा है नहीं?
It is not clear.
हाँ, अब आ रही है।
Sir, I thanks to Bawarji and Haragopal ji and other friends. Thank you very much. And I think it will be concluded. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir. I gave a trouble to you, sir. Thank you, sir.
हाँ, बाकी एक सुजेशन जो आया, हेलो लक्ष्मी सर।
सर बोलिए सर, बोलिए।
हाँ, एक सुजेशन जो आया कि थोड़ा सा हिंदी स्पीकिंग जो हमारे आगे के लेक्चर हो, थोड़ा हिंदी स्पीकिंग हो, तो थोड़ा आदरणीय भंवर मेघवंशी जी की थोड़ा सर्च करेंगे, हम भी करेंगे। तो कुछ हिंदी स्पीकिंग एरिया के लिए थोड़ा वो साथी भी ढूंढे हमारे जो भी बात रख सकते हैं, वो भी थोड़ा
जरूर we can discuss the विश्व प्रेम जी, can discuss।
मुझे लगता है सुखदेव जी कि ये थोड़ा बाइलिंगुअल ही हम इसको सोचें, हम ये सही है कि हिंदी का एक डिमांड कुछ साथियों ने रखा है, लेकिन मुझे लगता है कि क्योंकि हमारे इस कॉल में भी, इस मीटिंग में भी बड़ी संख्या में लोग हैं जो हिंदी नहीं जानते हैं या हिंदी नहीं समझते हैं, बावजूद इसके भी हम हिंदी में भी
Thank you,
बात
sir.
कर
We
रहे हैं
can
और अंग्रेजी में भी बात कर रहे हैं।
discuss
थोड़ा
later, sir.
बाइलिंगुअल
We can
रखेंगे।
discuss
हाँ
later.
ठीक है जी, बाइलिंगुअल ठीक है, बाइलिंगुअल ठीक है, बाइलिंगुअल ठीक है, ठीक है।
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू।
Thank you too. Thank you all.
थैंक यू वेरी मच सभी साथियों को। बहुत धन्यवाद, आप लोग आए और इसमें पार्टिसिपेट किया। मैं धन्यवाद देता हूँ दलित स्टडीज, सेंटर फॉर दलित स्टडीज का, और उसके साथ साथ जितने भी जो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, इंडियन इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ दलित स्टडीज, सेंटर फॉर दलित राइट्स, नेशनल अलायंस फॉर सोशल जस्टिस, दलित कोalition, पीपल्स कैंपेन फॉर सोशियो इकोनॉमिक इक्विटी, दलित बहुजन फ्रंट, नेशनल मूवमेंट फॉर लैंड लेबर एंड जस्टिस, इन सबका बहुत धन्यवाद कि आपकी वजह से ये एक बेहतरीन शानदार व्याख्यान माला चल रही है। और मैं और साथियों को भी अनुरोध करता हूं कि आप हर शनिवार की शाम 7 बजे ये लेक्चर होता है, प्लीज आप जुड़िए और हम शेयर करते रहेंगे इस सारी चीज को आपके सामने। थैंक यू वेरी मच, थैंक्स फॉर ज्वाइनिंग। थैंक यू हरगोपाल सर, थैंक यू मलपल लक्ष्मी जी, और थैंक यू सुखदेव विश्व प्रेमी जी और सभी साथियों को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। थैंक्स।
Activities చాలా కష్టమైంది.
అవును లోపల కొంచెం ప్రాబ్లమే ఉంది.